Hey, what's up? This is basically a response to Skuse Caspa XS's video, Atheist Advice. Well, it's not just a response, it's more fulfilling a request that she had. By the way, if I mispronounced your name, please correct me. I hate getting people's names wrong. In your video, XS, you basically was asking advice for someone who sent you PM asking you for advice on their own situation. They are a 15-year-old teenager who has strict Catholic parents, and they're going to a Catholic high school, but this person's an atheist. And it was your videos that helped to inspire them to speak out against what they see are the injustices and the hate that's being taught by the school that they're in, as well as the beliefs that their parents are saying. And they can't help but want to speak out against it. And they were asking your advice on how they should handle the situation. Like, what should they do? Should they say, what's on their mind? Should they express their opinion? Should they not? And because you haven't really been through a similar situation, you're hoping that other people, other atheists or other agnostics and such, would give their advice if they had similar backgrounds. I don't know if my advice is going to be able to help this person, or if it's what they're going to want to hear, and who knows, what I'm saying could be wrong. But I've gone through a somewhat similar situation. Both my parents are religious. My father less so than my mother, and in fact my father's questioning nature and the way he used to break down other religions is what got me to start doing it at a young age myself. But I'll admit, I'm a lot less religious than my father is. I think my father doesn't realize how religious he actually is, but that's another subject. My mom is definitely religious, and I went through Catholic school for 9 years straight, from kindergarten all the way to 8th. Now, granted, this person's 15 years old, so that means they're going to a Catholic high school. And I think the stakes are a bit higher in a Catholic high school than in the Catholic grade school, which is what I used to go through. I went through different Catholic grade schools. While they do shove the dogma down your throat in the grade schools, I think that in a high school the stakes are a bit higher, simply because now that you're getting older, they really want to make sure that they conform you so that by the time you're an adult, you're marching down the path they want to set for you. In grade school, yeah, they're trying to do that, but they tend to do it in a bit more of a gradual manner. They know your mind is definitely open to it, so it's like, okay, just little by little, feed them little by little, just accept it, because they know you're automatically going to accept it when you're a kid. Except in my case, I had a father who kept sending me to school saying, hey, next time you go over there, ask the priest if there's only supposed to be one God, why they have all those statues in there. That got me into a lot of trouble, by the way, asking those questions, but I kept asking. Now, my parents, and even my mom, despite the fact she was highly religious, she always taught me to question everything that was told to me and question everything I've read. But at the same time, she wasn't very comfortable with some of the things that I later on, started believing, and some of the things that the conclusions I came to when it came to religion and religious beliefs. And to this day, she and I, we don't clash, but she definitely isn't comfortable with some of the things that I say. And I know that if some of the things I used to ask the teachers would, either I would get into a little bit of trouble, or I could tell they were very uncomfortable. So I can only imagine if I really started jumping on them. But hate teachings and hate speech was something that I actually didn't hear a whole lot of, if any, in the grade school. So again, my advice might not be good enough for this person, but considering that I also was a bit of a knucklehead, especially in high school when I started dealing with Christian clubs, and I would start debating them, and I would even debate street preachers and stuff like that, and I would really hammer them down. The backlash I would get for it was pretty severe, but since I wasn't in an environment that completely supported this person, I had a safety net. I had other people to back me up. But this 15-year-old, apparently from what I'm hearing, doesn't have the safety net. They have strict Catholic parents, and they're going to a strict Catholic school, which is teaching that if you believe this or if you do that, you're evil, which of course the rest of that would be, and therefore unworthy of their protection or their love or their support. So my question would be this: Yeah, you may have the need to speak out, and yes, you may want to speak out, but why would you put your neck on the chopping block like that? If you know your parents are strict Catholic people and they, are believing a certain thing, and you are dependent upon them for your own life, because quite frankly, if you're 15 years old living in your parents' house and you're going to school, you're dependent on both the school for your education and your parents for your well-being. The last thing you're going to want to do is to make them question whether they should support you or not. Now, I know that sucks, but you might have to hold your tongue for a little while, just a little while longer, until you're able to support yourself. Then, yeah, you can say whatever the hell you want. But right now, you're surrounded by, for lack of a better term, you're surrounded by enemies. The last thing you're going to want to do is put a target on your chest. Now, having said that, this is a perfect time to pay attention and to be observant. You're in a Catholic school, but you're an atheist. You got Catholic parents who are teaching stuff that you can already feel that you know is wrong or at least suspect. But you're surrounded by material that if you study it, you can find its flaws. So this is a time of study, observation, and introspection. This is a perfect time to catch up on your reading, to listen to what they're telling you, to pay attention to their arguments, and break it down internally. So by the time you're an adult and you're able to start speaking for yourself, you will know what to say, you'll know how to counter it because you've already read up on it and studied it. This is a time for observation. Sun Tzu's The Art of War stipulates that in order to defeat your enemy, you must know them. You don't fully know your enemy yet. You're only 15 years old. However, you are surrounded by your enemy's knowledge. Their Bible's right there. Their dogma's right there. They're preaching it all the freaking time. Now's a good time to study it. Stay quiet. Read up on it. See where the flaws are. See what makes no sense. Form your thoughts. Form your arguments. Make sure your own beliefs are sound or your own thoughts, your thinking processes are sound. Do your homework, so to speak. And by the time you're able to stand on your own, you'll be able to speak with experience and with knowledge on your side because you know what they're going to say and you already know what their dogma is because you studied up on it. If you don't study up on it and all you're doing is just yelling and screaming at them for stuff that you feel is wrong, you're not spending time studying them. You're spending time fighting them, and worse, you're spending time fighting them at a time when you are dependent upon them. They will break you down, and they will give you headaches you really don't need at a young age. You won't be able to weather the storm that easily. So this is more of a time of introspection and biding your time, not attacking. Think of it as an incubation period. Now, having said that, if you still are a bit mischievous, well, from one rebel to another, there are little things you can do every now and then. You can speak about how, if they're talking about how evil this group is or evil that is, you might happen to go, yeah, and it's interesting how some of those other people are saying the same exact things about us. You don't have to go any further than that. You can just simply just throw that aside. It's interesting how I happen to hear some of the same things about those other people, and I wonder who's right. Yeah, they'll probably have some BS answer for that, but it will definitely get everybody else in the room thinking, hey, wait a second. Even if it's just for a split second. The best way to get people to start thinking is not to throw an answer, but to ask a question. Questions are always more useful than answers. You just gotta know how to give those questions carefully. As if you're being innocent about it. And even if they're guessing that you're messing with them, you still have to ask that question in such a way so that they can't, it's not outwardly, obvious that you're effing with them. If they're so evil for doing that, like for instance, if they're, saying that, okay, homosexuality is a sin. Why is that such a horrible thing, though? I mean, God created everything on this planet. He created every thought, every energy, everything. So that means the thoughts that they're having of homosexuality, that's something He helped to create. How is that being a sin? I don't really understand that. Can you explain that to me? Now, the way if you ask it that way, you can't say you're effing with them. But it's definitely going to get them stuttering. And that's all you really need to do. Because it'll get everybody else, all the other kids in the room to go, hey, This person doesn't seem to know the answers if they're paying attention. If they're not paying attention, that's on them. You're not here to save the world. You're here for your own knowledge. Everybody here is out to seek their own knowledge. And what I mean by their own knowledge is no matter what knowledge you absorb, it ends up going into yourself, and that becomes self-knowledge. You're here to improve yourself. Now, if what you're saying happens to help everyone else around you, that's great, but that's not your job. I know it's going to be extremely hard to hear some of the things that these people are saying because you know how vicious it is. But quite frankly, you don't really have the tools to fight against it yet. So use this time to acquire the tools. That will make you stronger when you get older, and at the same time, it will keep you out of unnecessary trouble. That's my advice. I hope it helps.